Welcome friends to Farm Fresh Designs 59. In today's video, I've got 4 projects using a lot of the new IOD summer release items. So let's go ahead and get started. My first project is just this little cabinet, and it has 2 deep little drawers in it. And because of the stain on the wood, I decided that I would go ahead and paint it with Dixie Belle Bonding Boss, and I'm really glad that I did, because later on, even after the first coat of that, the stain did begin to bleed through, and it kind of looked a little bit yellow, as you can see on the side. So the 2 little drawers had some little knobs that were in it that were screwed in, so I took those off, and you'll see what I'm going to use in just a little bit. And then I came back with Rust-Oleum Serenity Blue and painted the entire cabinet. And I think I used several coats on it because it took a little bit to cover up even that yellowy part. So I made sure to spray it with Rust-Oleum Clear Sealer. And this is just like a little sprig of flowers from the new IOD Rose Botanical. And so I wanted to use a little bit on one side of the little cabinet and the other part on the other side of the cabinet. So when you're using a transfer, after you get through painting it and make sure it's dry, you need to spray it with Rust-Oleum Clear Sealer or use a different sealer. And then that way when you put the transfer on, it won't pull up the paint. So you use the little rubbing tool that comes with it. And I rub all over it, and then I go back up to the top, and then I start pulling back that plastic as I work my way down. And then if you see any little spots that don't transfer, just lay it back down and rub on that, and it'll stick really good. And then after you get that all transferred on, then you want to use that plastic sheet to rub over it, and that's called burnishing it. So on both sides of this little cabinet, there were some little parts where it was really obvious that I had cut it right in the middle. So I just used some of the script writing that was actually right on that page near that little sprig of flowers, and I just kind of put that in the areas that looked like it was clearly been cut to kind of hide that. Now, one of the things that I could have done is I could have pushed that transfer just right up to the edge as if the flowers were kind of falling onto the side of the cabinet, but I just didn't think about it at the time. So that's another option. But when somebody looks at it, they don't really kind of see that part of it. All right, so now I'm going to make the handles for it, and I'm going to use the new IOD Felicite mold. So I use amazing casting resin that sets up in 10 minutes. And there's 2 parts, part A and part B, and they need to be equal parts. And once you stir it and it becomes clear, then you pour it into that mold. Now what I'm going to do is take those little screws that were initially in the little cabinet, and because it sets up in 10 minutes, I'm going to sit there for just a little bit with those screws sitting upside down in that amazing casting resin. And you can see that very quickly it already begins to turn white. And then in 10 minutes, it's done. And so you just pop it out really easy. And then they're ready to screw into that cabinet, and they're going to be little knobs. Now, this would not be something I would use on a big dresser, but for a little cabinet it works. But I wanted to make the sides of the drawers pretty. So I put the ephemera new stamp, and I just kind of stamped on both sides of the drawers just to make it look really pretty. And then I took initially the Dixie Belle apricot, and I was going to put that on there, but I knew it was a little bit too bold, so I added a little bit of a pink color to it. And then I wanted the flowers to look like they did, and I added a little bit of a Waverly color. And once that all dried and I painted the leaves with the moss green, then I just dry brushed it over with a Dixie Belle white wax, and that kind of softened it up just a little bit. So what do you think of my sweet little cabinet with my knobs that are made from the Felicite mold, and then with the transfers on the side? So if you're enjoying the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel and become part of our family. So my next project is something a little unusual. It's one of those little boxes, but it's made out of a really sturdy wood. And when I saw it, the first thing I thought of was I'm going to make a birdhouse out of it. So I actually had my husband to drill a little hole in it. And then it wasn't completely round, but because he did it, I wasn't going to complain. I knew that I would have to hide it a little bit. So I want to kind of spice it up a little bit. So I'm using the Dixie Belle Laurel mold. And I'm going to be using my Dawes air dry clay, and you put cornstarch in the mold, and then you push that air dry clay into it, and then I push it down into the mold, and then I go back over it with an old gift card to smooth it out. And then I put these pieces on with Tight Bond Thick and Quick, which is the gray and the blue bottle, and I get that at Walmart. And then there's a little spot up at the top, so I make some more of those little molds, and I make it so that it looks really seamless. And then I like to go around the edges really gently and push it down to make sure that clay connects with that wood. And then I need to cover up that part of the hole that's not completely round. And I use the IOD olive crest mold to use those little pieces of parentheses. And then I put a little bird on it from the IOD Birdsong mold. Now, I like to go ahead and paint my molds about 10 to 15 minutes after I put them on with a really soft bristle brush. And then after I go back and I painted it with the Rust-Oleum Serenity Blue. And then I drilled a little hole up at the top to hang it with. And then this is where I take another little piece of that IOD Ephemeral Type stamp, and I stamp just a little bit right up at the top. Now I'm going to be making a little mold to go around the top of it. So this goes back to the IOD Laurel mold, where it's just a straight piece, and I put two little pieces around on that edge of the top of the mold instead of the part that's facing. So I decided I wanted to make a little tassel to hang down from the bottom. So I just used this piece of lace, and I think I got this at, I can't remember if I got it at Joann's or where I got it. I just kind of wrapped it around my finger, and then I tied it up with a little piece of ribbon. And then I took some more of that ribbon, and I put a little bit of hot glue on it, and I went up at the top and wrapped it around, and then I put a little bit more hot glue, and I wrap it around some more, and it kind of resembled like a little lace tassel. So I had drilled a hole down at the bottom, and so I'm taking like a little toothpick, and I'm sticking it in and putting that extra ribbon in. That was not easy. And then I used hot glue to kind of connect it so that it wouldn't fall out. And then I used that same ribbon to put a little hanger up at the top. And this is my little birdhouse that's made out of wood. Now, one of the things I realized after I made it was that I didn't put a little stick in it to look like a little perch for the bird, but this is just something that's just pretend, and this would be something you could hang out on your sun porch. So this is not really going to be for the birds, but I think it's really pretty. And then you can see where I glued that little button up at the top, and that kind of hides that little hole as well. So what do you think of my little pretend birdhouse? I love the way it turned out, and I love the color of it. But I love that you can use a lot of different IOD molds, and they just all look so good together. Okay, so on the next box, I am using, I think it's DIY Farm Fresh paint. And so this is just a little cigar box that I painted. And this comes from the new IOD stamp called Charlotte, and it's the little teacup. So I stamp it with the IOD black ink, and this is a little tool that I rub over it. And then on the front of it, then I use the IOD Conservatory Labels mold that's made out of resin. And I painted it with the same color, and I stamped T on a little napkin from the Apothecary Labels and put that on it. And then I put white wax all over it. And it's just a little box that you can keep your tea bags in as you're getting ready to make your cup of tea. But I actually made this for a friend of mine who likes to drink tea a lot. So she's coming up in September, so this is going to be for her. So, Kendra, when you watch this video, look what I made you. Okay, so I'm going to throw a little fall project into this. And this is a piece of decoupage paper from Decoupage Central. And I'll share the link to that in the description box below. And they sell all sorts of decoupage paper, and they sell all of the IOD. So because I wanted to paint this little thrifted cutting board, then that's why I painted the back of that decoupage paper, so that the colors would still pop out really well when I put it on. And I'm putting it down with just some Mod Podge, and I tore the edges of it, and I used the IOD Trimmings 3 mold to go down at the bottom. And I painted that also with the Serenity Blue from Rust-Oleum, because I don't want it to stand out too much. Because then after I get all of that done, then I like to kind of soften up the area around that decoupage paper. So I'm going to be using the IOD Vintage Textures stamp, and I just use stone gray ink on that, and then I'm going to be stamping all around the edges of this decoupage paper, and then I also stamp right onto that decoupage paper as well. And then you'll see in just a minute, after I finish it all up, then I use Dixie Belle Voodoo Gel Stain in the color Natural, and I just put a little bit on the cutting board and down there at the trim, and then I let it kind of sink into the details really good, and then I wipe it back, and then that just pulls out the detail in that mold, and it just kind of softens up the area around it. And I want to make a little bow for the corner, and so this is a little mini bow dabra, and I'll share that in the description box below. I get this off of Amazon, and I just use some different ribbons and laces and some eyelash yarn, and you just make little bows out of it, and then there's a little tool that you use to push down all of those pieces. And then if you'll notice that little ribbon that kind of goes up and down that's kind of stuck in the middle, you pull that up, and then you tie a knot in it, and then you've got a little bow. It's really super easy to make a bow with this. And then I'm just going to glue that down up at the top with just some hot glue. And then I just put a little button up at the top. And this is just a pretty little shelf sitter that you can put in your kitchen or any place else. And it just kind of gets you ready for the fall. And I love the colors of it. So what do you think of this? I love it. And I love pumpkins. And I love the fall. That's probably one of my favorite times to do DIYs, because I just like the colors, and I like to already be thinking about the coziness of the fall. But I love this decoupage paper. But if you're not into these colors of pumpkins, then Decoupage Central has got a lot of other decoupage papers that you can use in the fall, and they also have some papers that you can use for Halloween if that's something that you decorate for at your home. So friends, we are at the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you inspired it. In the comments below, make sure and let me know what was your favorite. And I also am going to share the link to my Facebook page in the description box below, because I did not put this on social media, but I went on vacation recently to Berlin, Ohio, and I stayed in one of the Airbnbs from White Cottage Company that, Mary does her YouTube videos on, and I went thrifting while I was there. So on Friday, this video comes out on Monday, I did a live video on my Facebook page with all of the things that I bought when I was up in Ohio. So I'm going to share the link to that, and I hope you'll go back and watch it. And you can see all of the things that I bought and what I'll be using in the future in my videos. And my Facebook page is called Farm Fresh Designs. It doesn't have the 59 on the end because I've had this Facebook page for a long time. So I'll share that link, and I will be doing live videos on that with projects that I will not be putting on YouTube. So you'll want to check back at that and see the different projects that I make when I do on a live video. So once again, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for all of your support. Have a great day.